Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you what, I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We got an absolutely fantastic show coming your way. We had this young lady that was on the show last week, and Michelle and I were so excited. We had to get her back on, for you all to learn a whole lot more about what she is doing across the continent, so the world. So I'm excited to have her back on the show today because we're going to be talking about living life to the fullest. A lot of times, Michelle, a lot of times we don't always live life to the fullest. We always try to find things to kind of hold us back. Uh, I'm so excited about this guest is going to share some of her points of views on how you can live life to the fullest. How are you doing today, Dr. Cooley?
I'm doing great today. Had a great weekend. Everyone had a beautiful holiday weekend. We're excited to have this guest back on the show. She's got a lot to talk about. She wears many hats, and you're right. Living your life to its fullest potential is the title of today's show.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't ready for you to give out the title at this
But you
particular
did
time.
already.
But I tell you, we sit back and we chilled out this week for Easter, but we were still living life to the fullest, relaxation, and everybody had to really dig deep inside to find out what their potential is and what they can contribute, not only to themselves but to society. So, Michelle, I want to get started with this. Can you please tell our audience again the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely great guest that we have?
Oh, most definitely. So again, the title of today's show is Living Life to Its Fullest Potential. And we're having a sit-down conversation with Dr. Patricia Patti Jo Grover. She is an international best-selling author, global speaker, success, life, mental health coach, and mentor. She's going to be discussing goal achievement strategies, personal and professional development, leadership, and navigating through loss, trauma, and abuse. So Dr. Patricia Jo Grover, the goal achievement strategist and the queen of retaking, reshaping, and remaking lives, businesses, and futures, incites action with the platform that she specifically created around her proprietary Conquering Skills education to encourage, educate, and empower individuals to achieve more success and be able to rise above any challenges they may have in any of the 8 dimensions of life. She uses a heart-centered approach that focuses on helping her clients have mindset shifts, create new belief windows, and find their why and purpose, allowing them to dream, conquer fears, and create a work-life balance so they can have, be, do, and earn more while they live their lives purposely, joyfully, and gratefully. In her 35 years of business management and ownership, she has recruited, trained, coached, consulted, taught, and mentored over 3,500 entrepreneurs, corporate employees, and staff of her own businesses. The International University of Entrepreneurship believes so much in what she is doing with her platform, they have chosen her to be the sponsor of the Rise Above show with Patricia Jo Grover on the JD3 TV network, as well as all of her events. So please welcome back to the show, Dr. Patricia Jo Grover.
Welcome back, Doc. Welcome back. Just like I was telling you when we was in the green room, that I was so excited about just hearing a little bit of your story last week that I think that the world need to hear the whole thing. So welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Well, JC, thank you so much for having me. And Michelle, thank you for being such wonderful, fabulous hosts. The world needs to hear so many messages right now, right? And that's what it's all about. We really tend to, and in one of my books, Living Outside the Box, we tend to put ourselves in those boxes or allow other people to put us in those.
Absolutely. So, Patricia, if you don't mind, can you tell our viewers and listeners that might have not saw you last week a little bit about you, your life, the things that you're doing, what makes you click, and why you're so passionate about helping others?
Oh my goodness. There's so much to that. Okay. Well, let's unpack a little bit. How I came to be on your show last week is I actually just received my PhD in entrepreneurology from the International University of Entrepreneurology. And for those who aren't familiar with what entrepreneurology is, it's actually the study of entrepreneurship. So I finished up my PhD and put in my dissertation sharing about my life story, because it is about our imagination, our knowledge, and thinking about how we can use what we know towards creating the life that we want to have for the future. So I always say, life is meant to be lived, right? God gave us each of us our own individual gifts and talents that we are meant to use to help ourselves and help others. Now, we are as unique with our gifts and talents and the soul within us, the soul that dwells within us is all as different as the irises of our eyes or our fingerprints. And what we can do with that is it's such a blessing, right? Because everybody's different. And people, when you're in the coaching industry, people compare themselves to others so much. And we all come to the plate with that different person, right? That different personality. There's many coaches that feel threatened out there and will feel that, what is that? The syndrome when what's it called? Oh, imposter syndrome, right? That they don't feel like they have enough to offer somebody. But the thing is, when you learn who you are and you're driven within your purpose and you are authentically showing up as yourself, how can you be an imposter if you're only yourself?
You're absolutely right, because a lot of people they don't feel that they have a whole lot to offer, and then they try to pretend like they're somebody else. Or
Right.
but
Right.
authentic, just
So,
like you.
and so what brought me to where I am and at this point in my life, there's so much that goes into it, but I share on stage when I talk and share on stages all over the globe. I had a childhood like most people couldn't conceive, let alone believe. And that affected me well into adulthood. I had gone through 3 failed marriages by the time I was in my late 20s. And then I finally decided that I needed to figure out what was wrong. How come I couldn't have that healthy, happy relationship? But looking back, it's because I never saw that. I never saw what a relationship between a man and a woman was supposed to be, let alone a healthy home environment, because I never had it. So it was time for me. And at that point, this is when I came up with my philosophy on life, that it's like a jigsaw puzzle, because at that point, I had to dismantle all the pieces that made me the woman that I was to that point in time, and then start putting myself back together one piece at a time. And at that point, JC and Michelle, at that point, the motivational speakers out there were all men. There were Jim Rohn and Bob Proctor, and they were the only ones really writing books about this kind of stuff either. But the thing is, it wasn't heart-centered enough for me. It didn't connect to me emotionally. And you know how much things have evolved since then. We talk so much now about emotional intelligence and things that wasn't really talked about back then. So I really had to take everything that I could. I was hungering for knowledge and everything, and I had to learn all this stuff. And so that's when I started to create what I use for the tools in my proprietary Conquering Skills education now, because I had to build the systems and the tools that helped me get from where I was currently finding myself at that point in time to where I am now. And so with that, I had to learn to know, like, trust, and ultimately love myself. And so that's what I did, through years of working with things, and then was able to create what I use today and teach. And so, and I didn't really get to share with you guys the other day, or maybe I did a little bit, but so after that time, and I finally had that right place, because I was looking for other pieces of myself that were missing in other people. And that's what happened with those failed relationships, because I wasn't going back to the same type of man time after time. They were different, totally different. And I realized this after everything. But after I put myself back together, then I finally met the love of my life. I had to kiss a lot of toads to find this prince.
Mm-hmm.
And we were together for many years, and we were living life to its fullest potential. We were really enjoying life, and everything was going along wonderfully. And then we had a bad motorcycle accident, December 4th of 2010, where I ended up with a fractured skull and a brain bleed. I don't remember getting on the bike that day. I don't remember the accident. I don't remember being life flighted. I don't remember being in intensive care for a week. I don't remember coming home from the hospital. There's about a month of my life I don't remember. And, I had to have speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy. I couldn't smell or taste things for a long time. So coming back from that stuff, that's a totally different, you know what I mean? So the 3 divorces and putting myself together after that, then with the accident. And then my husband, after we healed from the motorcycle accident, and I had to get back on the bike, and I did that. And then we decided, you know what, let's do something that's always been on our bucket list. So we purchased a KOA campground franchise and owned and operated it for 7 years and doubled the income. And then we decided, you know what, check, been there, done that. So let's move on. And that's when I started to write my first book after we sold the campground.
Dr. Grover, hold that thought. We have to take a commercial break right back, but we will be right back. Audience, if you have any questions or comments for Dr. Patricia Jo Grover, please send them on your way, whatever streaming platform you're on. Thank you.
convey I love you. I'm proud of who you are, the one that keeps us close when we're apart. Talking from the darkness of all that we've been through, it seems that there might be a way to leave behind the loneliness we've known and live again life of
Hi, welcome back to It's Your Life with Dr. James J.C. Cooley, where our guest today is Dr. Patricia, Patti, Joe Grover, and audience. The title reminder of the show is Living Life to Its Fullest Potential. And Patti, Dr. Grover is talking about, her past experiences and, the challenges and also the things she educates others on how to live your life to its fullest potential. So if you have any questions or comments, please, wherever live stream platform you're reviewing or looking to show at, please type those in, ask her questions, please provide comments. So Dr. Grover, you in the middle, before our last segment, before we had to take a commercial break, you were talking about, please continue talking about, after the motorcycle accident,
Right.
kind of woke up, smelled the roses, and you continue from there. Please continue.
Yes. Well, so then we sold the campground franchise, and I was getting ready to start writing my first book. So I actually, we had the campground was in Maine. I drove and went to Florida to go to a writer seminar, and my husband stayed behind to help them figure out how to close up for the winter. And then he was driving down. So he came down like a week after I finished up my seminar and had started writing my book. And he was not feeling well. So he went to the doctors. And at that point, he was diagnosed with mantle cell lymphoma, which is non-curable and reoccurring. And he was only given 2 to 5 years to live. Mm-hmm. So we got him into a clinical trial out in MD Anderson out in Houston, Texas, and we got him into the clinical trial. And, we went through all of that and then got him to the point where he was in remission. And, again, we were just trying to live our life to its fullest potential and not letting this stand over our heads, right? And trying to make the most out of the life that we were given together. And so we were in it at this point, we're about 4 years and 4 months in when then he became ill. And within 4 days of going into the hospital, and this was during COVID, he went into a coma. And because it was COVID protocol, I was able to give him the last kiss through a COVID mask, and he had a beanie down over his eyes, and the light was so sensitive to his eyes that we didn't even get to make eye contact. And he went into the coma within 4 days of being in the hospital. And he was there for a week and a half before they had to they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. They had to choose to life flight him to Boston. And then I went to Boston and I was able to be with him, but still in a coma. And he was there another week and a half, and they still couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And I had to choose to pull the plug. So talking about how everything affects your life and doing that. And it wasn't until after he passed, then I made them do an autopsy. And then the autopsy came back and said it was encephalitis, but the test results hadn't come back yet. And when the test results came back, the test results came back to the hospital, and the hospital reached out to me and said they had to contact the National Center for Disease Control because it was the Poisson virus, which is extremely rare. And they had to do a national press release about this. So losing him was very traumatic. And it's PTSD kind of stuff from what I went through with dealing with all that. And it's all aspects of your life. And so I really want to share that with people. That's how I got, my title, the Queen of Retaking, Reshaping, and Remaking Lives, Businesses, and Futures, because I've had to do it. I've had to do it several times within my own life. And then most recently with what I went through with losing my husband.
Wow. After experiencing such trauma, from a personal trauma, what steps did you take to find your purpose and fulfillment and joy in life, despite what you've gone through in your life?
Well, thank goodness again. Thank goodness for me. I knew my purpose, and I was doing what I knew what I was supposed to be doing with my life prior to losing my husband. If I hadn't had that under my belt, so to speak, if I didn't already know who I was and what I was meant and put on this earth to do, I think that would have been, very, very hard to come back from. But I thank God that I had that. But for me, it was the connection to purpose with my family, and having my grandchildren made all the difference. I took a year off from work, not seeing clients, not speaking, not writing any more books or anything, because I needed to take that time to heal and to really, really decide what it was that I was going to do with my life. Because I think I shared the other day, it's like going bowling, right? And nowadays when you go bowling, there's the pin machine that picks them up and sets them back where they're supposed to go. But what happens in your life when something like this happens, it's like you bowled that ball down there and there's not even a person at the other end to pick them up and put them back where they are. At this point, you have to do it for yourself.
Wow. Tough decision that you had to make. If on anybody that ever had to make a choice like that, and be able to stay sane, if you
Right.
will.
And that's the thing, JC. He and I, we knew that he was going to go at one point in time, and we kind of expected how it would be because of, what I mean, because what he was dealing with the mantle cell lymphoma. But this was totally something opposite. But we had the conversation, and I know probably a lot of spouses do, right? Hey, if something ever happens, don't ever make me live plugged into a machine. And we had that conversation. I wouldn't want to live like that myself, and he didn't want to live that way. So even though I knew I was doing what he wanted me to do, it still wasn't easy. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone.
So Patricia, how do one do a self-reflection on their values and priorities, uh, in making, just like what you just said, most spouses, I hope have that conversation that if this happened or that happened, this is my wishes. How do one do a self reflection on their values and their priorities and leading up to that point where their mindset is okay because there is a order or orderly thing that we have to think about in our mind, so that we can maintain our sanity.
Well, so I really, really strongly suggest that people connect to whatever faith they have. I'm Christian myself. So my faith in Lord Jesus and following, following Christ. But none of us, JC, none of us get out of this alive. So I don't care what religion you are. I don't, it makes these types of things. None of us will get out of this alive. It doesn't matter, your financial, where you are financially. It doesn't matter your education. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter, the color of your hair, any of these things. It doesn't make any difference. None of us are getting out of this alive. So from wherever point, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's after losing someone, and with COVID, after losing a business, whatever it is, we only have so much time left on this planet. I don't know when my expiration date is. What we need to really look at is what's most important to us, and be able to, again, living our life to its fullest potential. So what I teach and talk about is just that. What is it that we want? What is it that makes us want to keep going? Because the thing is, we need to have it. It has to be something that we want. It doesn't matter what somebody else wants for us. What is that passion? What is that dream inside of us that's going to make the difference? And so I teach people to live PJG style, with purpose, with joy, and being grateful. If I don't want to be on my deathbed and having those, I wish I would have done this. I could have done this. I would have done this. I don't want to have those could have, should haves, or would haves. I want to know that I've lived my life to its fullest potential. And I want people to realize that we can do it, but we can do it with joy. Because if we're not happy about things, who wants to be miserable, right? Who wants to live their life and constantly have regrets? To
No one.
me, right. To me, if you're going to live it to its fullest potential, live it out loud, live it with that purpose, live it joyfully and live it gratefully. And we have to be grateful for what we have, I just, after losing and having the loss that I've had, I had to find things that I was still grateful for. And then when you really take a look, you can wake up in the morning. I think about 3 things I'm grateful for before my feet even hit the floor every morning. And it could be as simple of that, hey, my pillow, my blankets, my bed. It just think of the things that we have all around us that we should be grateful for.
Wow. So you mentioned you packed a whole lot of things into that. For our viewers out there that are listening and wondering, how do I go about finding my purpose and my fulfillment? What advice would you give them?
Well, I really work with clients and do deep dives into who we are. Because if I am, as a goal achievement strategist, if I'm trying to get somebody from where we are currently finding ourselves, it doesn't matter, trauma, drama, and I had shared, I believe, some of my story with you coming from a domestic abuse situation. So wherever we're finding ourselves, we need to know where we are so we can get to where we want to be. There's no straight shot from A to B, but we really need to determine that where we are, who we are, what our strengths are, what our weaknesses are, what our opportunities are, what our threats are. And many people recognize that as doing a SWOT analysis. But as we're digging deep, and I have certain questions that I go through with people to get them and they're, deep diving into who it is they are. Because when we really get to know ourselves and look at ourselves, it's like going beyond the reflection. When you're looking in the mirror, right? And this is a thing I do with clients, is look at yourself in the mirror. And it's difficult for us sometimes to say, oh, I like this about myself. I like that. And to make the notes of the things that we like, and then really get closer to that mirror and make that we're looking at our face, but then we focus on our eyes and have that conversation, because our eyes are our windows to our souls. And when you start having a conversation with yourself inside and ask yourself, what is it? Who do I want to be? What do I want to have? What do I want to do? How much do I want to earn? Because when we're inside ourselves and actually having that conversation, you don't have all this outside stuff going on, right? You can have that conversation, and how the what ifs and the buts come in if you're focusing on the outside world, and what happens when you start saying, well, what if this? We start questioning ourselves. But this, you notice a difference in how your body feels when you put well, what if this, and you say something negative behind it, you notice that you lose energy. Whereas when you say something, well, what if, out of excitement, you're ready, you want to see what comes next. And so finding out and doing this deep work really helps people to get to know who they are and what their skills are and what their purpose in this life can be.
Wow. You're right on track. You're right on target. We got to take a station break. When we come back, we're going to talk about strategies. We're going to dig deeper into what Dr. Patricia does. I mean, just like Michelle mentioned, international bestseller, doing all type of things, speaking all over the world. This young lady right here is doing so many things, and she could help you if you open up your mind and give her opportunity. We're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Dr. Patricia Joe Glover some more. If you want to be part of the conversation, just go to the platform that you're watching us on. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you will get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
Welcome back to It's Your Life with Dr. James J.C. Cooley. We're here with Dr. Patricia Joe Grover. The title of today's show is Living Life to Its Fullest Potential. And, we don't have enough time on the show today to go over everything, but, there's things people can do as far as living their life and finding purpose and fulfillment. It's all about goals. We've talked about, I think everyone knows what SMART goals are, like specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So, Dr. Grover, what strategies do you use to break down larger goals into smaller, actionable steps? And how does this approach help you maintain momentum and track progress?
Oh, fantastic. Oh, I love that one. Thank you, Dr. Michelle. I don't just teach the SMART plan. I teach the SMARTer plan, Dr. Michelle, because life happens to every single one of us, whether we're ready for it or not. So I teach the SMARTer plan because they need to be editable and revisable. And the difference between editable and revisable is an edit, just like when you're writing, you need to change a few words, syllables, spelling, punctuation. That's an edit to a plan. But a revision is when you need to rewrite a chapter or a paragraph. That's a revision. So with plans, you need to make sure that you can edit them and revise them, but it's never an option to give up. quitting is never an option if you're going after any dream or goal. So that's the difference between what I talk about with the smarter plan. But no matter what it is we want to do, again, we have to have our point A, that's our starting point, and we have to have our point B as the ending. But we know it's never a straight line between the two again. So we have to have set up those milestones so that we can track our progress. So I teach people to have a spending plan, and basically it's like a budget of their time, their money, and their energy on what they want to put into each aspect, each step. And have planning days in your planner and calendar to keep track of where you are where you are on that plan. Because what happens if you're not focusing and checking in where you are with those things, you can get off track so easily if you're not focusing on planning days and doing that. So that's a very, very key point that I want to bring out. And so just like with a SMART plan, anything that somebody's going for, you have to, any goal, you need to write down the date in which you want to achieve it by. Mm-hmm. And so even if it's, we'll just say it's a year, something that you plan on taking a year. So then what I do is I teach people how to break things down and look at, okay, and I have actually in my Design Your Destiny planning system, it is not a planner or calendar. It is actually a system that works along with the other book. But in chapter, on page 6, I have the project goal initiation sheet. And I have a sample there for breaking it down for people. So you have to have your goal. You have to have the date you want to achieve by. And if you have a financial stake in it, so if you're putting a budget, something, that you're going to give this goal so much money that you're allotting to spend on it, you have that there. Then you break it down. So you put it down on paper and you break it down. So you write it out just the way it's coming out of your mind or whatever on paper. And then you put in front of each piece of it an A, a B, a C, a D, or an E. A means you absolutely have to do it, get it done. B is you should do it, right? You should. Your C is you could do it, right? So that's the degree of how important those things are. D is delegate. E is eliminate. So those things, no matter which goal it is, you put the A, B, C, D, and E in front of it, right?
Well, do you think it's important to make sure these goals are realistic? I
mean,
mean,
that's part of the whole smarter, though. So if you've already done the smarter, so you've already gone through and done the smarter. You know that it's systematic. You know that it's measurable, because we're gonna give it the measurable pieces as we're doing this.
Yes.
Okay. So it needs to be the smarter. It has to be attainable. We need to stretch ourselves a little bit, but it needs to be attainable. And the time base is it's got to be done by a certain time. And now we're going to break it into which time chunks it's going to go into.
But it's interesting. Sometimes we have the best we have the best intentions with these goals. You write them out and everything like that. But sometimes distractions get in the way.
Yes.
Life gets in the way. So how do you educate businesses, entrepreneurs on distractions when it comes to achieving and staying on the course with their goals?
That's where the E and the R come in, Dr. Michelle, because they have to be editable and revisable. And that's why we have to have the planning days built into our calendar, so we can make those adjustments for what's going to happen or what is happening in our lives. So I choose one day a week so I don't wait until that day of the week to choose what I'm going to accomplish that week. When I have the stuff in my calendar for that week, on my planning day, I go through and I line up. And if there's any edits or revisions that have to happen for that week, I need to tweak this or change this here or there, then I do that to get me the best results, because we want the return on investment of the time that we're putting into something, as well as the money, right? It's all about the ROI. Our time can be as valuable as our money.
Wow. And you know what? One of the many most important things is accountability. So sometimes you you're good. The person can do it themselves. But sometimes you need someone to hold you accountable besides yourself, whether it's a mentor, a family, a friend. What are your thoughts about that? And what type of, let's say, what type of person would you choose to make sure you're accountable? It has to be somebody who is positively encouraging your goals. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yes, and I found that as I was putting together the tools that I use in my proprietary Conquering Skills education, Dr. Michelle, I came upon this years and years ago. So I have in my programs, I have the peer-to-peer mentoring and accountability membership program, where I put groups of people together, and they may not even be in the same genre, but because we are focused on achieving our dreams and goals, we need to have that cheerleading squad. We have to have the people that have the understanding as entrepreneurs, what it is, the passion that we have for our project. And because we're not surrounded, our family and friends don't understand our craziness, right? They don't understand our passion for something. You know, they love us and, oh yeah, you're just, you just work 80 hours a week because you're crazy, but they don't understand the passion and drive for something. So with my peer-to-peer mentoring and accountability membership program, these people all come in, everybody signs an NDA so that it's a non-disclosure agreement, so that they can be openly sharing, okay, this is what I'm doing. You're a sounding board for each other. You're the accountability partners. You show up every week. Hey, did you get this accomplished? And why not? What was it that you came up against? If somebody's struggling with something, you share in your knowledge and wisdom of what you have experienced yourself. And it becomes like your own mini mastermind.
I like that. Your own mini mastermind.
Yeah. Because again, if you're serious about achieving your dreams and goals, you really need to have those people that have your back, right? And so many people don't have that. They don't have it within their own family and friends, and they don't, and it needs to be something smaller, because then sharing everything with the world and getting everybody's input, you need to be able to know that you have that team, that cheerleading squad.
Most definitely. Well, you know what? We have got to pay the bills, so we're getting ready to another break. And hey, audience, if you want to join this conversation, please, whatever streaming platform you are watching this amazing show on, please send questions to Dr. Patricia Jo Grover, comments. It's Your Life with Dr. James Cooley. We'll be right back.
Yes, and I tell you, this conversation, just listening to you two during the last segment, absolutely fantastic. But I tell you what, just like Michelle just said, we still got a lot more coming. So I tell you what, keep the comments coming. Ask Dr. Patricia any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's Your Life, and we'll see you shortly after the break. Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it, to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z, and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
A stands for attitude, commitment, and enthusiasm. Let's talk about the A, attitude. A lot of times we are confronted with things or in situations, and we often react because we're not, for one thing, walking around with the right attitude where we get an opportunity to think. Attitude will make or break you. Most of the time, the first thing, depending on where you're at with your attitude, you want to react. You want to hit. You want to say something. You want to do the first thing that come to your mind. We all have this split second where we can think about it. Somebody bump into you or said something, we can think about it. I need to dream big, think big, and be big. Be big is not in statue. It's in heart and it's in mind. You don't always have to react when you're confronted with a negative situation. Let me talk about the C in ACE. The C stands for commitment. What does the C stand for? What does the C stand for? In order to be committed to anything, you must be committed to yourself. And what I mean by committed to yourself, you must be committed to you telling the truth, you being honest with yourself, regardless what it is. Enthusiasm, just like I mentioned to you, is being excited. Just being excited just because you was able to wake up this morning. I mean, I'm excited. I woke up, the good Lord gave me another day. I'm happy. That's what I'm happy about it, and I'm gonna walk around. I cannot be walking around mad at the world or pissed off about something or mommy wouldn't let me do that, daddy. Say they did all these things. I'm just so, come on. Put that energy toward a positive thing. Just like Michelle Obama said, when they swing low, you what? Attitude, commitment, and enthusiasm. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's Your Life, and Dr. Patricia here. She's just bringing it. And I wanted to show Patricia. I wanted to show that last video that I just showed: attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, called the ACE. And you know, most of the time, whatever situation or circumstances that we're in, we all going through certain things. But if we don't have the right attitude, we're not going to navigate our way out. Even with loss, even with trauma, even with abuse, all the things that you have brought up during this conversation, it still requires the right attitude for us to really solve the problem, come to closure, and develop the right mindset. Can you talk about that a little bit, Doctor?
Mindset, JC, mindset is everything in life, in life and in business. We have to have the right mindset. And when I teach and talk to people about all the time is the difference between the positive mindset and the negative. We need to choose. Our choices and decisions are what define our destiny. Okay. So we have to choose to have the healthy, happy, the mindset, the positive mindset. In order to do that, we need to do things. And I teach women have a harder time with this, I think, than men, but to do the things that bring us joy, that raise our vibration, because wherever we are at vibrationally affects our mindset. And if we're not vibrating at the right level, we're not going to have the right mindset to come into being able to achieve our dreams and goals. So mindset is everything, but you have to be intentional. We always need to take intentional action. And I say that I'm a motivational speaker, but I'm an activational speaker, meaning we need to take those steps and take that action to make the difference. So having that intention to create that higher vibration, keeping ourselves in that space. So you need to plan on these things, because sometimes we forget about taking care of ourselves and doing the things. Remember when you get on an airplane and they say, put your mask on first before you put anyone else beside you theirs on? We need to learn to put ourselves first and not feel guilty about it. Because if our cups aren't full enough, how do we have it to pour into anyone else?
You're absolutely right. And with that, it brings up the topic of resilience. And we might get knocked down, but if we don't have the strength or the willpower to get back up, how can we help even ourselves if we're not willing to do that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, that I would say that's my superpower. My superpower is resilience. And I have to say, I'm a little stubborn too. I'm a little stubborn too, but we need to have that resilience. We need to, you've heard many people, I'm sure any of us that have been in any industry or are hearing about, the self and personal growth space. It's like having to, you got to keep getting back up after you've been knocked down. The more no's that you can get when you're knocking on a door, the better, because sooner or later you get those out of the way and you're going to get the yes. That's the same thing for us. Every time we get knocked down, I teach people anything that has happened to us has happened to us. And we need to be thankful for it. Yeah, it's frustrating and upsetting sometimes, but we need to be thankful for that, because everything that has happened to us, we need to look at it as a learning experience. How did it happen? What caused it to happen? Learn from that so that we can be able to move forward, even in the loss of my husband, and all that. So, so I boldly confess there was a difficult time when I looked up and I said, what are you thinking? Out of all the people in the world, why do you have to take him? And it's hard sometimes to understand and what purpose there could have been for that. But none of us know when what day and time and whatever that we're going to draw our last breath,
So, with that being said, we got about 3 minutes left in the show. What are some of the takeaways that you want our viewers and our listeners to get from this, especially living life to your fullest potential? So we got about 3 minutes.
Yeah. JC, your potential is different than mine. My potential is different than yours. Our potential is different than every single person watching and listening to this. Don't ever compare yourself to anyone else. Your life is your own life. Learn that it is your own. Learn to live it to its fullest potential. What you want to get out of life isn't what your neighbor wants to get out of life. It's a good thing that we like, people like different things. We have our soul are different. We have different thoughts, feelings, opinions, and beliefs, right? But we also have our own gifts and strengths. We are all as different as the irises of our eyes and our fingerprints. Make your life matter.
Wow, that's the title of the show, Is Your Life. Dr. Patricia, you have been fantastic again today. I'd like to thank you for taking the time, and want to invite you back on if you have time to come back on the show. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners out there for taking the time to tune into the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. I want to leave you guys with something just like what Dr. Patricia said. Always live life to the fullest potential, And in doing that, you got to always dream big, think big, and be big at everything that you do. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. Is Your Life. Hope you tune in. See you then.